Welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to be talking about Diaries of a Landlord. This is what I've entitled the series because we're going to be talking about all things property rental for property investors, landlords, and rental agents. So today's topic specifically is around taking control of your property. Lesson number 1 is think big picture. So here's the scenario, right? Sometimes we're going to have a tenant that doesn't pay. Sometimes we're going to have a tenant that has more people in the actual property than what is legally allowed. So many times in us, we want to respond by going to change the locks in the door, take some muscle there just to intimidate the tenant or the occupants of our property. Sometimes we even go as far as thinking about, should I just cut the electricity? They'll be frustrated and they will leave. Yes, that is such a real thing that happens. I've gone through those emotions, so I relate to each and every one of them. There were some days I would think, can I just not push some of my tenants off of the 6th floor? Because in 2005, I bought my first 2-bed, 1-bath, and the lessons that I learned between 2005 and 2014, having that 2-bed, 1-bath was just frightening lessons all on their own. But fortunately, I met property education in 2016, and I now know how to do things in a lot more of a constructive manner. So why would I be talking about thinking big picture? Because when we get into an emotional situation where there are people staying and they've breached contract, meaning they've broken our agreement. In the lease agreement, it says the last day of every month, and boom, they don't go and pay the last day of every month. And instinctively, from the emotion as I've just spoken, we want to cut the electricity and do all these crazy things. I'm wanting to share with you today lesson number 1, think big picture. Think of the foreseeable future. It is important for us as landlords or property investors or rental agents to determine or to keep control of the actual situation. Because the moment we start doing all of these other things, it creates a bigger problem. Because if we eventually land up evicting this person, they have also got like a long list of things against us for doing to them before getting them out of the property. So what if you went to take muscle there, they were intimidated, they were not happy with that? They can go to the police station and log some sort of a complaint against you. Now, do you want to be dealing with the complaint as well as the eviction? Or do you just want to be dealing with how best can I manage the situation from owning this property or from managing this property if you are a rental agent? Point number 2, or lesson number 2 for today, is determine when to evict a tenant. Yes, again, I want to say I'm so guilty of this. Some days I used to first think of, I'm just going to evict them. I'm just tired of these people, and I'm tired of carrying a family. Because all I was trying to do is understand what property investing was about by buying a 2-bed, 1-bath, staying in it for a while, going to rent somewhere else and somebody else coming to pay the rent here. Because in theory, it sounds simple to roll out. However, in practical, that is a whole new bag of chips to deal with. So the decision to evict really develops over time. And this will be influenced by the tenant's response and their behavior to some of the things that you do, like I was just explaining. So here's another example, right? Let's keep it in breach of the lease in terms of not paying rent. Now, the first step is literally to place this particular tenant on terms, on a payment term, right? And allow them certain number of days to come to you to pay it. How are you going to do it though? It's easy to say it, but how to do it? The how to do it is a written notice, because a written notice is required, right? Having a verbal agreement is so detrimental. You really caught on the back foot with a verbal agreement. So having it written down is your first step to mediating what could be a minor problem, all right? Because we're all people, we all have some sort of issue that happens. Now, how will you do this? You will write a letter of demand. Through a letter of demand, you'll be able to say, well, if this agreement conforms to the CPA, which is the Consumer Protection Act, you have 21 business days to resolve this challenge by paying me what is necessary, because we're using an example of the breach of this lease agreement has been a rental payment that has not been made. Okay. Now, if this is not governed by the CPA, then there's 7 calendar days. Now, here's a bit of homework, and I don't think you saw homework coming with this video, right? My bit of homework where I would like to encourage you is to go and review your lease agreements so that you can understand what are the repercussions that you put in place in your lease agreement. Now, just before I end this particular lesson today, I want to share this with you. When I first started letting out, long time ago, I downloaded my lease agreement and I played around with it, and I thought it was pretty solid. I really thought it was quite cool, right? But that was in my limitation of my understanding of a lease agreement. When I had new tenants come in, I thought I got a little bit more smart by going to buy a CNA lease agreement. The CNA lease agreement seemed so much more like, oh, this looks a little bit more solid, right? Again, from my limited knowledge of lease agreements. However, in following all of that, what I later found out is that some of the things that we think are genius and solid are far from it, because that's not our area of expertise. Now, what do? I go to TPN lease packs. Why? Because there's a lawyer that put that particular agreement together. So having a lawyer put something like a lease agreement together, to some people might say, you've got money to throw away. But my big picture is, because I've learned and I've understood that I need to be covered, my tenants need to be covered. And through all of this, I want to protect my investment. I'm okay to go through to TPN lease packs, or go and visit a lawyer that is very good in property, specifically around lease agreements. And I've got a lawyer just for you. I'll put all her details in the comments below. I work very closely with her and also bounce off many of my ideas on how best can we educate and really just bring to the awareness of all the power that we already have in our hands. Her name is Cilna Steyn, and she's the owner of SSLR. And if you go and you Google her, you'll be able to find all her details. And like I said, I'll put all her details down in the comments below so that you can also start off your journey on a lot more of a constructive footing. So if you found that this particular lesson was helpful, I want to encourage you to either follow my blog, because a lot of also what I discuss, I do write down, and sometimes I cross over different topics over the different platforms. But if you enjoy YouTube, I'd like to say, then subscribe on YouTube. And lastly, if Facebook is your thing, then I'd say follow us on Facebook so that you can hear on all things property. Have an awesome day.